Radio Rahim in Venice Beach, California, Muscle Beach, with Eddie Hearn, your short sleeves, showing that you belong.
Oh yeah, I'll keep the top on, because I've walked around here. I do not have the physique to be walking around here with my top off.
It's just very cold. Don't blame him for this. Listen, man, it's cold out here, but it is hot on fight week.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Obviously, KSI and Logan Paul topping the card. How are you finding? I know you've talked to me about having to work in different environments in America and figuring out what works in what area. How are you finding Los Angeles and promoting this fight here?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, look, this fight reaches so many different, not just cities, but countries. I mean, we're seeing that. Obviously, we're on DAZN in the US, Sky Sports in the UK, Fight TV in many different territories outside of those. And we're looking at the tracking, and I can't believe the interest, not just in the US and the UK, but like India, Saudi Arabia, the Netherlands. Like, these guys are worldwide superstars. And they're also brilliant promoters. I mean, look, you've been around them before. Great talkers. I mean, they're now saying, Logan Paul, I heard saying last night that he believes he's going to be a future world champion. KSI said he's going to put on a boxing clinic, both of which I think will not happen. You are not going to see Marvin Hagler against Sugar Ray Leonard on Saturday night. You're going to see two megastars out of their comfort zone. You know, probably unravel very quickly after adopting a game plan for 10 weeks, getting hit on the chin and just exploding and trading, and a lot of drama.
Now, people are expecting that drama. Like you say, it's a bit sensational. But on the undercard, we've got real career fighters, world champions, and one of them's like right behind you. He says he's come over to Matchroom, to DAZN, to hunt down big money, big fights. We just saw Canelo last weekend. Spectacular performance at 175 pounds. But Billy Joe Saunders claims when he wants to fight at 175 pounds and challenge Canelo. You feel like that's advisable?
I think Billy Joe Saunders is in the stage of his career right now where he wants the legacy. You know, he's earned the money. He's fighting on Saturday night. He's got a tough fight. Guy's undefeated in 29. The pressure's on Billy to look good on Saturday night. That's how you get the mega fights, by looking good, where people start saying, yeah, we want to see that fight. And he really believes he will beat Canelo, and I believe Canelo likes the fight with Billy Joe Saunders. You know, we've got 5 guys, you know, not the burger factory, but we've got Gennady Golovkin, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, if he beats John Ryder, or John Ryder, Dimitri Bivol and Demetrius Andrade to fight Canelo. So it's going to come from one of those 5. You know, it should be really Gennady Golovkin next, but we've got 5, and it will be one of those 5 next, and the one after probably, for Canelo.
With Triple G fighting in late February, it kind of indicates that a May date seems unlikely?
No, I think that can be done. I mean, it could be early February as well. He has got a mandatory to deal with, and he'd like to get that out of the way. But also, you know, he wants the Canelo fight badly. So we'll have to see what happens.
What did you take out of the Canelo-Kovalev fight? Did Kovalev do better than you expected?
Yeah, I thought it was always going to be tricky for Canelo because, you know, much bigger guy, you know, very, very experienced. It was a bit cagey, and it was a devastating knockout. You know, you have to give Canelo a huge amount of respect. You know, he's really a middleweight going up to beat a very good light heavyweight world champion. And I think you really have to make him pound for pound #1 right now, to be honest with you. You know, I think he's a great champion. Of course, he's a huge star, and he's good for boxing, you know, and it's going to be interesting to see what the next moves are.
You know, another guy that was on that card was Ryan Garcia. Spectacular performance. Everybody thought that fight was going to be a war. It turned out to be a Mack truck hitting a turtle.
It's a strange one. I didn't really see the punch. You know, it was like the phantom punch, wasn't it? But Duino was obviously baffled by something. Thought Ryan Garcia looked really good. You know, Eddie Reynoso is a very good trainer. I think he's doing great. For me, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney is an absolute must in 2020. That is such a big fight, such a great fight for the WBC World Lightweight title. And, you know, Ryan Garcia I really like. Star qualities and a really good fighter as well.
Have you spoken to Oscar De La Hoya or Eric over there?
No, not yet. I mean, we'll get this one out of the way, and Devin's got a mandatory as well against Javier Fortuna that just won at the weekend. But I really feel like back end of 220 that fight's going to get really big. But I love it. I love that fight. I think it's 2 great young fighters, and I would love to make it.
You know, another fight that is possible, but still not made, is Callum Smith maybe being able to, I don't know, is it possible that he would fight maybe an Andrade? Is that too light a weight for him?
I mean, there's more chance of him fighting Billy, you know, because they're both champions at 168. They're both British. That's a really big fight in Britain. Callum Smith against Billy Joe Saunders. But Callum can also fight Canelo. Callum will move to 175 at some stage. You know, he's got a tough fight against John Ryder on November 23rd, but he's a big star and a quality World Championship fighter.
It seems like Cullum and Andrade are like the outliers, guys that are hard to get the fights they want.
Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Demetrius Andrade, and I even put Dimitri Bivol in that mix as well. Not people aren't lining up to fight him. Very skillful fighters, very tough to beat.
Do you think Kovalev is out of the elite mix at 75 now? Can he like reclaim that title?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Kovalev I think could fight Bivol. You know, it's a good fight, or Russian fight. But yeah, it was a tough to come back from that knockout.
Lastly, we always have to talk about Joshua Ruiz. All these photos have circulated about Andy losing weight and looking quite fit. You think that changes the dynamic of the fight?
I just don't know if it's angles that he's taking. You know, like, because I saw him on the speedball, and I thought he looked exactly the same. And I saw him in that picture of Michael Hunter, who was taken up there, and he looked really slim. I've done that before in the shorts, you know, like with a selfie. If you go a bit higher, Rahim, you know, you look a bit slimmer. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think Andy's physique's going to make a massive difference in this fight, to be quite honest. I think it's really down to AJ. You know, he's got to be the one to improve in the fight. And I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I know. I overheard you saying that Joshua's been. Did you say sparring like 16 rounds?
No, I saw him do 16 rounds of work the other day, probably 12 rounds of sparring. Look good, you know, and I think that the big difference now is the quality of sparring that he's got in. Last time we probably had 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of sparring, and it was very difficult to, well, it is difficult to replicate Andy Ruiz's style, but we've done that well, and you know, he's in a good place.
Usyk, Chisora, Parker, like all these kind of heavyweights that aren't world champions yet, but could be challenging soon. How do we sort that bit out? What's next for these guys?
Well, some people are standing by. I mean, Usyk's the mandatory for the WBO, but I think he also quite fancies the Chisora fight. So we've really got to see, do you wait to see what happens, or do you go ahead and fight Chisora and see what happens as well? You know, it's going to be interesting. But those guys, it's a bit like, you know, the quartets that I was talking about, middleweight and super middle. If they can't get the mega fights, they've got to fight each other. And there'll be great fights as well. I mean, you're seeing it with Hunter Povetkin, you know, in Saudi Arabia. There's a fight where two guys on the verge of fighting for world championships are just saying, let's just fight each other. And they're really good, interesting fights to make for 2020.
As far as David Price goes, is this the end of the line for him?
Maybe. I mean, look, I thought he boxed well against Chisora. You know, he was a little bit under notice in terms of time. He had Chisora hurt in the fight. You know, I thought his corner saved him from getting badly knocked out. So he may feel like he could come again. And, you know, he's always one punch away from a big win, David Price. But, you know, he's had a good run.
Well, one guy that's missing from this conversation and is continuously sought after, at least by us in the press, to find out what is going on with Dillon White. He's been stripped of his mandatory status, which is reasonable considering his situation, but we've been waiting for like an update or some kind of proof to the contrary.
I disagree that it's reasonable, because if you're not banned or suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control or by UKAD, you know, I don't believe that the WBC necessarily can just decide to ban you or suspend you. But we do need UKAD to speak up and confirm the innocence, if you like, and the reason which they chose not to suspend him. I don't know why he should be removed from the mandatory position. Now they've made Tyson Fury mandatory position. I think that's just a decision of convenience. And I think the WBC do some great stuff for boxing. But ultimately, you know, I think that also the franchise situation is wrong. And I kind of get the feeling that when Dillon White becomes mandatory for Deontay Wilder, we all know what's going to happen, which is Deontay Wilder is going to suddenly become franchise champion. So who knows?
When is this evidence coming that will absolve Dillon White?
That's up to UKAD. You know, I'm not UKAD. They've already cleared him. We know that much. Okay. But we want to see, you know, the final conclusion report to make everybody stop asking the questions. And it's very difficult for Dillon's career to move forward at the right pace until that comes out from UKAD.
Lastly, knowing what we know and understanding that 10-ounce gloves and no headgear is a real pro fight, give me your likely prediction for Saturday night.
Well, I'm sort of hearing out of both camps that Logan Paul looks great and he's knocking people out in sparring. And I'm also hearing that KSI has improved a lot, technically. I think with 10-ounce gloves on, if KSI gets hit the way he did in the first fight, that early, he's going to be in trouble. But these guys, they're fit, they look great, but are they boxing fit? You know, there's a difference. You saw Logan Paul gas out, didn't you, after 2 rounds last time? You may see that again under the madness of the Staples Center. Like I said, don't expect Ali Frazier, but expect all the drama from 2 megastars doing something they're just not used to doing at the Staples Center on Saturday. Do not miss it.
Can we expect more fights with YouTubers? I know you've got some kind of partnership cooking with KSI.
I just think it depends what happens. You know, if it's a really good fight, and you know, we know the numbers are going to be huge, but if it's a good fight and people want to see again or something different, we're in a business that is led by demand. So there's a lot of demand for this fight, and that's why we're doing it.
Well, that demand will be serviced in just a few days at the Staples Center this Saturday night. KSI versus Logan Paul on DAZN, promoted by Matchroom Radio. Rahim with Eddie Hearn.